Many of you who just watched the Packers in Arizona may have had money down on the hot gambling trend, fantasy sports. Millions across the country play FanDuel and DraftKings. But lawmakers are calling on Attorney General Ken Paxton to look into fantasy sports, see if they violate Texas gambling laws. KXAN's Phil Prazen shows us an opinion could come any day now that would change the habits of thousands of sports fans.
Here it is, laid out in Texas law. It's illegal to place a bet on a game or a player. But under this, there's an exception if the bet is made in a private place. Now, one thing the Attorney General will decide is whether making a bet on your phone is making a bet in private. Lane Higgins puts money down on daily fantasy sports. He'll tell you he's not very good at it.
I mostly lose money. That's mostly what happens here.
It is a booming industry, dominated by FanDuel and DraftKings, where people can win big if the players they pick perform well on game day.
Touchdown, Northern Illinois!
Lane places his bet by phone. Sometimes that's on the sidewalk, in his house, or at work.
That's fun. That's fun to people. And yeah, you put some money on the line, that gets interesting.
That idea of putting money on the line sparked lawmakers to ask the top cop in Texas, Ken Paxton, if this has been illegal gambling all along. I asked him the same question, but he didn't want to answer.
I want to be fair to the process, and since we haven't finished the opinion and we're still drafting it, I don't want to comment on exactly how I interpret that.
The daily fantasy sports companies have mobilized.
It's King James!
They're pushing their players to contact Paxton through pages like FantasySportsForAll.com, a website run by the industry's trade association.
For a lot of legislators and attorney generals, this is the first time they'd ever looked at fantasy sports, and I think there's a lot of misconception out there that this is somehow like slots or roulette or a gambling product.
The association's chairman, Peter Schenke, says this isn't gambling because the player uses their skill and knowledge to get an edge.
All of our companies would love to continue doing business in Texas, and so that's one of the reasons why we're trying to reach out to consumers there.
He hopes lawmakers and the AG will decide to work with them to make the industry better and not ban Texans from playing altogether. And so for now, we wait. Any day the AG could rule that playing daily fantasy sports or operating a daily fantasy sports company is already illegal in the state of Texas. Phil Prazen, KXAN News.
Well, taking a closer look at daily fantasy sports, there are already a number of states where the major fantasy sports sites are prevented by state regulations. Those states include Arizona, Iowa, Louisiana, Montana, Nevada, New York, and Washington. As the Attorney General determines if fantasy sports violate Texas gambling laws, there's a process they've got to go through. Those steps include 180 days to respond to lawmakers. Then there's an in-house committee that researches and interprets the law. And finally, it needs approval from the Attorney General himself.